Hey guys, this is Jeremy from Moralis.io. Welcome back. This is part 2 of our cloning Etherscan series. In this video, I'll be going over creating our cloud function and defining a custom React hook for calling our cloud functions. First off, just some house cleaning stuff. I'll be assuming that you're already familiar with JavaScript and common React patterns, things like arrow functions, async await, decomposition, for React, functional components, hooks, and context. If you're new to React development, I suggest you head over to the Ivan on Tech Academy and check out our course there on React development. The official React docs are also quite good, so I definitely recommend going and checking those out as well. All right, so the first thing we'll do is we'll define our cloud function. And if we go back to our code here, we actually have defined this function already in our past series, the Cloud Functions 101, in episode 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go back there and grab this directly from there. Save ourselves some typing. Switch back to our server. Click on the Cloud Functions and paste that right in there. And for those of you who haven't been following along for that series, this function takes a single parameter called user address. We create a query on the ETH transactions table, filter it by address, sort it by block number, and then return the 10 most recent. So we'll save that. All right. Now that we have our cloud function defined, we can go about calling it. And from React, we want to call that from a custom React hook. So we'll create that in a minute, but we'll go back to our code here. There's a couple of things that we need to set up. The first thing is that in order for us to interact with the Moralis SDK, we first have to install it. So npm install Moralis, like this. I've already done that, so I won't press enter here, but that's how you'd install that. We already installed the React DOM, which we'll be needing later. The next thing we'll need is our server URL and app ID. So we can set that in the app.js here. Just copy that in. And we'll also need to import the Moralis SDK. Moralis from Moralis. Change these to capitals. And we'll just use the environment variables. One nice thing about React scripts is if you prefix the variable with React app, it'll load it automatically. So in order to get the .m variables from .env, we'll need a .m file. And that's this guy right here. We can paste in the app ID and server URL. And we get that from the server details here. I've already pasted that in already. Right, so now that we have the server URL and app ID, we can get rid of this here because we don't need that. Save. Okay, all right, so what's next? We got the app ID set up, we got our cloud function defined in the server. Next, we want to create our custom hook in order to call our cloud function. So what I'll do is I'll create a new directory here called hooks and a new file. And call this one Cloud Queries. cloudquery.js. Right. Okay, so in here, we'll need to import our Moralis again. We have access to the SDK. And then we'll need to define our custom hook. Export function, use Moralis cloud query. And this will take two arguments, method name, or the cloud function name, and some options. And these options will define some default options here. Const default cloud query options. And for this, when we run a cloud function, we need a couple of things. We need the method name, but we also need the list of parameters. We'll define a property called params, leave that blank. And another thing that'll be useful for us is a function that I'll call postProcess, which we can use to call to format each item that's returned from our cloud query so that it's ready for displaying. For now, we'll just do our dot attributes. So this will return the attributes property in the from the query, because that's where all the good stuff hides. All right, so we got that, and we'll make this the default cloud query options. Okay, now the next thing we need is some state. State for our hook. Use state. Set state. Create this to an object. Well, there's three things here that we're going to want. We're going to want a thing called property called data. This will hold the data from our cloud query. We have an error. We can display some error messages, and a flag called loading will initialize to false so that we can display a spinner while we're waiting for our response from the server. Great. I'll also need the imports for React for use effect and use state. The other thing we'll need here is a use effect hook, so that we can run the cloud function whenever our parameters change. And this will depend on we'll have two dependents. The first being the method name and the options. And then at the end here, we'll return the state back to the calling function. All right, now within our use effect hook is where all the business is going to happen. First of all, we know that we'll always need a method name, so we might as well get that out of the way right off the bat. Method name. Then we're going to call our cloud function. So just as we're used to, we're going to call our cloud function in the usual way, moralis.cloud.run. That's the name of our cloud function, which is method name, and the parameters to the cloud function, which is options.params. This returns a promise. So then and promised in some data. All right. So before we call the cloud function, it's probably a good idea to set our loading flag to true. So let's add that in there while I'm thinking about it. So this will expand the current value and add the loading true state. Okay, good. So when we get back data, if we do get back some kind of data, what we want to do is update our state. So we set the state to loading false and data to our output data. But first, we have our post-process function, so we want to apply that. And we'll say output is options post-process. We'll check to make sure that we have that defined first, and if we do, then we'll call data.map on using options.postprocess. Otherwise, we'll just assign it the regular data. All right, so that's our formatted output assigned to the data state. And we've set our loading state to false. So if we don't have any data, what we'll want to do is set the data to null and loading to false, just to make sure that the that loading state always gets set to false, so the spinner doesn't spin forever. Okay, next thing is if our cloud function returns an error, we want to catch that. So we'll go catch error, and we'll console error, the error, just for debugging purposes, and we'll copy. Also want to update our state. The data will be null, and we'll pass in the error and set the loading state to false. All right, this is looking pretty good. We've got our state set. We have the air conditioning, the air condition. We've got our dependencies. We're returning the state. All right, now that's good. Let's save that. Okay, do some formatting. Nice. Okay, what's next? Next up, let's try calling our newfangled hook here. We'll go into app.js. Import our new hook. Use Moralis Cloud Query. We'll get it into the imports. And then, okay, now we need the options. Just going to paste this in here. All right, options. And our cloud function takes, we're going to take the data from that. Const data. We'll deconstruct the state and grab the data from that. And our hook takes two parameters, the method name, which is transactions, and the options, which is options. Good. It's a log data. Just to make sure that we see that did something. All right. Let's save this. This is get transactions. I just want to double check the name here. Back to our cloud functions. It says get transactions. Good. Back to the code. All right, we got the initialization. We got our stuff from the .env. All right. See. Functions. All right, we need to change into our Moralis directory here. And let's run npm start. And this will take a moment to compile. Well, it brings up the localhost. All right, null, null, and parse objects. So this is these are the 10 results. This is what the raw data looks like. We have 10 parse objects. And if we open this up here, we have the class name, which is a table that we did the search on, which is ETH transactions. Inside the attributes here, we got all these functions from the properties from the ETH transactions table. That looks good. Great. Although it appears that our function that we called here to process the data didn't quite work as we expected. The options.post process data. Right. Data.map. All right, but yeah, I'll take a look at this and see what's going on there. But yeah, that's it for now. And next time we'll be going over. We'll be looking at using our new React hook to for the search and for displaying the transactions and the output component. But yeah, that's it for now, and see you guys in the next video.